Good afternoon, Sports Insanity Network fans. It's Mark Goldovsky Halpern here for the Sports Insanity Network. I want to thank you for joining me this afternoon. We have a thing at the network that we were going to be calling it One Thing, but I'm going to save that name for the guy himself to keep it as that. And I'm naming this when I'm going to go live on a spur of the moment and not need the patch man to get me there because it's still a setting on my stupid computer that I got to go figure out. This is called Halpern Uninterrupted, is where I'm going to be able to speak and not have to answer for any of my mistakes. Mind you, there's not going to be any. Um, this is more of a opinion-based pod. If you're going to be wanting to see a stat feature of this, you'll be looking for the upcoming article on Carlos Beltran from Mike Rifkin, our chief editing officer. And let's get into it. So, as we all saw the other day, as Carlos Beltran has decided to go into the Hall of Fame as a New York Met. And I am proud to say I remember waiting up until midnight, that night before, and you saw that the Mets ended up grabbing Beltran for a tune which back then was, high in and deserved every penny of it. 7 years, $119 million deal that he signed on January 11th, 2005. Now, personally, this was the rebuilding of a team by Omar Minaya by adding Pedro Martinez that year. You got the young David Wright. You got everything coming together over these next few years. And Carlos Beltran was just one piece in what was to become a one step away from a World Series berth the year later. Carlos Beltran, probably one of the best center fielders I've had the pleasure of watching as a Met. I've seen plenty of the greats, but if we're talking about the 1960s, no, I'm not that old. I wasn't then back then. I have had the pleasure of seeing Beltran, Trout, Griffey, and on and on and on. Players of my growing up until today. And Carlos Beltran brought something to the Mets that was unique between the fact not only his defensive skills were, but he was that five-tool guy. He could run, he could do it all. Run, field, catch. Also, if Collide was in there, we're really not going to get into that, but poor Beltran when he collided in right field. But Carlos Beltran will go in as a New York Met, and this means a lot to New York Met fans who have tried to get Carlos out of the shadiness of what happened in Houston and the fact that he was a journeyman. It's not going to take, and I hate to say that about him because he technically was, but wherever he went, he was a beyond impactive player. I mean, his history with the Mets, he was a 31-point WAR. That means wins after release. If you want to look that up exactly, Mike will be explaining that in his article. Even though the Mets only made it to one postseason during the Beltran era, which, mind you, is absolutely ridiculous to think about when you think of the caliber that some of these Mets teams were with Wright, Reyes, and Delgado. I mean, it was a plethora of stars. It's just, it's New York luck, Carlos Beltran started out with the Kansas City Royals and, he made his way up through Kansas City pretty quickly, and everybody wanted him. Everybody, Yankees, Mets, he was the team you were going to build around. This is your centerpiece. This became not just the mainstay in center field, but before David Wright was the face, Carlos Beltran was. And Beltran, over his time as a Met, left many a marks, and not just his play in the field. Had many a nice rivalry against Andrew Jones during those years when he was a center fielder through whatnot with the whatnot with the Atlanta Braves. Beltran always made it about the team and about family and how the teams were so successful because that locker room was so together and worked very well and worked uniquely with each other. There was none of the fights you hear of today and the problems that you hear in some of the dugouts and whatnot. This was a team back when he was brought in, free agency, that started to bring a different atmosphere to then Shea Stadium, and then obviously when it became Citi Field. Beltran's presence sent shockwaves and fear because he could be put anywhere in that from that two, three, four, five position and succeed. Whereas most players these days could not, they're meant for whether it's the three, whether it's they're meant to be that God, that fourth spot in the lineup that everybody loves to be, the grand slam guy possibility, your power hitter, your unbelievableness. But Beltran wasn't just a power hitter. He hit for average, he hit for RBIs, he stole bases, he created differences in games. And as a true, speaking of a Met, as his first game as a Met, it wasn't a home game. He hit a home run in that first game, showing that he was there. Pedro pitched that first game. I remember the first home stance that season. Of course, we all think about Carlos Beltran and that final plate appearance. And a lot of people went and used that as a defining end all moment. Guy had a very, very successful career until, finally he was traded to the San Francisco Giants for future and one of my favorite pitchers. And I'm so sorry to see what happened to him last year. And don't ever think he'll pitch again, but future top of the rotation pitcher, Zach Wheeler, came over for the Carlos Beltran trade. And to see Beltran go was bitter tears, but it just shows, players come and go. Beltran could have probably stayed a Met for his entire career, but like want to, get a title. And every player has a chance to deserve that and enjoy that moment. And he got to embrace it throughout his time playing with many a different team. Carlos Beltran will always remember the being in center field, number 15. And he kind of brought the Latin class of fan back to Citi Field. Not to say that the Mets have never, but Beltran and Reyes kind of make you think of Lindor and Soto right now. They bring that ferocity, and just like Juan Soto is feared at the plate, so was Carlos Beltran. He came to the plate, especially with runners in scoring position. There was nowhere safely to really pitch him as he could hit the ball at any part of the plate. He was one of the most patient hitters I saw. And I still yell at him today for not swinging at the first pitch and the second pitch and that final pitch in 2026 against the Cardinals. But the guy is probably going to go down. I mean, will there be players better than his numbers? Yes. But if you judge a player just by the numbers, It's not, you got to go what he did all throughout, and not just the number itself, but for the fan base, family, his contributions to and currently to Latin American baseball, as he has been the ambassador to Puerto Rico from MLB. And I wouldn't want it, I couldn't see anybody else being a prime candidate to be the eyes and the voice of Puerto Rico when it comes to bringing up young ball players. Um, Carlos Beltran will, have a great speech. Julio will get to introduce him, will be interesting to see. And if it's been announced and I missed it, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm sure Mike will catch up on that. Um, please do me a favor, look out for these. These are going to be frequent, meaning Halpern Uninterrupted. Mets players going into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, that's going to be plenty too. David Wright's next. Uh, Not going to happen right away, but he'll get there. Please do us a favor. Follow us at www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for all your blogs and vlogs. Check us out on the socials at X at SIN Real. S Insanity Real, as we all like to do. But please check us out on Facebook. Watch the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe bell. Hit it. Like us. Know when we go live. We have the one of one that is producing great episodes, which is our baseball card podcast. The Face Turn is in high swing. Breakaway Bandit, mind you, I haven't seen many of the episodes, but I've only heard one person, is going live tonight for probably our funniest pod of beginning of the 2026 year. So if you want to see a funny podcast tonight, please tune in tonight on our YouTube channel. Um, for me, the old ops guy, want to thank the patch man for running in and saving me as yet again, still that one setting that won't let me go live. So I appreciate his last minute timing as he was getting ready to leave work. For now, take care. And I'll catch you on the flip side.